What's the police report? You know, like for fire, it's arson. What's whiskey collapse in a rick house? What's that called? Rarson?
Boozing.
Boozing?
Boozing.
Hello. Welcome. We're here. Another episode. And what's great about another episode is this is the last of the My Father episodes. Or is it?
Ooh.
But do you know what the name of the show is?
It's whiskey.
Tobacco.
Fellowship.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Someone's a little delayed in the brain.
He's a little delayed, but we'll get
Dramatic pause.
Dramatic pause.
Dramatic
Let's
pause.
go with that. Let's go with that. So today we've got a libation, a cigar, and a topic. Imagine that.
Oh, shocker.
Ooh.
I know, shocker.
Almost like every episode.
What? No. So
You say it like a bad thing.
Oh, it's a great thing.
we are the WTF. We enjoy talking about whiskey, tobacco, and subjects around that and the things we do. If you're here joining us, we appreciate you being here for yet another episode where I get to hang out with my bros.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
Kevin Smith. I mean, sorry, Josh.
That's
together like it.
I didn't even think about that till just then. This is Josh or Smokey D. Barron. This is Garth or Sir Metal Knight.
What's up?
And I am Devin and or Ark
Fire.
of Fire. We're just doing a little bit of a long intro because we have a very interesting subject that I think it's a big deal, but this particular distillery probably won't
It's
even
in the
blink
eyes
at.
of the beholder.
I guess.
Honestly.
Don't ever look at
I
the
think
eyes
as
of
a,
the
as a
beholder.
consumer, it's one thing. As the person that happened to is another.
You know what happens if you
You
look
never
into the eyes of a beholder?
What?
It depends on the eye you look at, because it may turn you to stone or kill you. Anyway, nerd reference.
D&D reference.
D&D. So the first thing, we're going to be drinking something from the Jack Daniels distillery.
Yes.
And then what we'll be smoking today is going to be the La Duena from My Father. It is a beautiful little stick we've got here. I'll go into more detail in just a second. And our topic of conversation is Jack Daniels Rickhouse collapse that recently happened. And what that means, why that's a big deal, why that's not a big deal. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So
right.
let's get straight into the libation of choice. Mr. Garth brought something from his collection, and he brought two of those.
I did. I have multiple. Basically, this is a Jack Daniels single barrel strength rye. These are two different barrels and two different proofs. One is the first one I got. It's at a 126.4 proof, I do believe. The mash bill is usually around 70% rye. It is barrel strength. It comes from one single barrel in the Rickhouse.
The other one here he has is 65.4 at 130.8 proof.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I found that the one that's a little bit is underneath 130 is sweeter, less circuit peanuts, candy,
Circuit
spearmint.
peanuts.
Yeah.
Circus.
Yeah.
You know those little fluffy circus peanuts you used to get as
Yeah.
a kid? Yeah. Sometimes you'll pick
Interesting.
those hints of that in a rye, especially in the Jack Daniels rye.
I need to have some of those just to see if I can
I
get that
know,
reference
it's been a
again.
while.
Yeah.
I know.
Sometimes you get like a bubblegum flavor as well. Yeah, very strange.
I was not expecting you to say
strange.
these words. Okay.
Yeah, oddly enough. But this one you'll get more of the classic cinnamon, the sugary, black sugar. Your typical spice you get in a rye, you'll get in this one. It's very easy drinking. Probably one of my favorite Jack Daniels products, and probably one of the easier ones to get nowadays.
Sipping
honestly.
whiskey?
Yeah.
It's very good sipping whiskey.
This
It's
isn't
not
something
sugar.
you mix with Coke.
You can.
Oh, yeah.
You can. Because honestly, it's
any
not...
Jack. You could throw
Any
in a
Jack,
cup.
because that's what they're known for. You know, Jack and Coke. What else? You know, but they are reasonably priced nowadays and pretty easy to find in most liquor stores, even in Alabama. You can find them on the shelf.
What's the MSRP?
I think they're around 60.
I would say that's the low end. I'm saying around 75.
Yeah.
Anywhere between up and
I say 60 because that's what I bought mine at, but he's right. Typically, probably around 70. Yeah.
yeah, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
65, 75. Just depends on the store.
It depends on the store.
Gotcha.
But not super expensive. It's not over $100 like your Jack 12 and all those that are unicorns.
If you find it at $100, you better buy
Yeah,
it.
if you find a Jack 12 at $100, you empty out the bank account and you buy that puppy right now. Then you send it to me.
You buy the case.
My address is one.
123
The
Maple.
P.O. box is down in the description.
Which, I've thought about doing that because I've heard this other podcaster does the same thing, and his follower base just sends him stuff. Like the U.S. mail hates them because their P.O. box gets full of cool
Right.
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
we,
like,
we could possibly do that down the line
Yeah.
if you want us to do an episode or review of your favorite stick or your favorite whiskey
Libation.
or whatever it might be. It could be any kind of
Yeah.
libation. It doesn't have to be whiskey. It
Yep.
could be
Just
anything.
put it in a tube sock.
Jaeger.
and
Because
smell it.
this jabroni likes Jägermeister. So
oh, we're doing an episode on that. So do us a favor, go ahead and pour it while I talk about the stick in question, the La Duena by my father.
That was zero.
This
pop for me.
is another Nicaraguan Puro, but this one is a bit different because it's a broadleaf Nicaraguan Puro, which is a very intriguing concept. And this one is a Pete Johnson and Jaime collaboration. And just like the last one, man, you gave him a heavy pour. And
He's going to drink a second helping of it anyway, so I'm just going ahead and pre-starting him out. I know him too
drunk.
well.
So, wrapper, binder, and filler, all broadleaf,
I
all
love
Nicaraguan.
broadleaf.
Yeah. So I want to do a brief little thing about that. Is broadleaf is the leaves at the top that get the most sun. It's the ones they typically use for Maduro. That's the quick, fast way to say it.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why it's my favorite. Maduro is my favorite.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. So you're going to notice some interesting ones, kind of similar to the last one, but because this is broadleaf, you're getting that cocoa and that spiciness to it.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're going to notice it. It's going to be a lot more noticeable than the last one we smoked. So
Wonderful.
yeah, and this one's really nice because the price point is pretty much the same as the last one. It's around the $10 range, and it's got this beautiful silhouette in it. It's got that kind of blood red and then a white, off-white kind of silhouette of a woman on it.
Didn't we find out from the
Eric?
that is Garcia's daughter?
It is, yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's pretty good, and I call this one it's an unsung hero, or it's kind of like an offshoot of my father, because originally a lot of shops didn't carry it. You had to go to specialty places or order it online because it wasn't like labeled my father. It wasn't straight everything, and then finally people were like, "This is really good." Like the first place I saw it was just a straight tobacco store, which is strange.
Yeah, that's right.
It wasn't at a cigar shop. It was at a tobacco store that sells cigarettes and stuff. And then it started branching out very quickly right after that.
Wow.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know you just said it, Yeah, is it, like I said, I believe the name's Janie, I think her name is.
Jamie?
Yeah, and it's inspired by her taste buds, basically.
Right.
What she,
What she
prefer
prefers.
to drink, smoke.
Which
Yeah.
is right. Which we always love women that love to smoke cigars. I think it's awesome. I think more and more women are getting into smoking cigars. I have a guy I work with that his daughter loves to smoke cigars as well, which is awesome to see. I was curious, since it's a broadleaf, would it be considered a Maduro or just a broadleaf?
It is classified as a Maduro, yes. But it's going to be more on the natural range of it, which we get that typically with all my fathers. And
But because it's a broadleaf, not this one particular, but any broadleaf doesn't mean it has to be a
no,
Maduro.
no, not at all.
So it's very similar to bourbon, or
Right,
not rye,
sure,
but
yeah.
bourbon. All bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon.
Also, like the last cigar we did, which was a Nicaraguan Puro, this is a Nicaraguan broadleaf Puro. It's double Puro.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think typically I've heard like the broadleafs are from typically like Connecticut, from like United States. Is that right?
Usually, yeah.
Usually,
Yeah.
but this one isn't though. This is from Nicaragua too,
Right,
as well.
right. Which makes it incredibly unique. I love the simpleness of the band with the kind of Victorian look to it. The simple silhouette on there. It's like I was saying, it's kind of an unsung hero in the cigar world. And that's the kind of things we want to review, to be completely honest with you, is stuff that's approachable to everyone.
Right.
We're going to do some expensive ones. There's no doubt about that.
Because we bougie bitches.
Yes, very accurate. But for the most part, we're going to be hitting stuff that's within everybody's price point because that's the stuff that we approach
Oh, 100%.
regularly.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I
we-
think for anybody, it's going to be where what's new, what's going to be that price point everybody's going to be grabbing at.
Oh, 100%.
but-
I think all of us we do have high taste when it comes to everything,
Yeah.
whether it be libation or cigars. But at the end of the day, we couldn't afford that lifestyle of having
No, of course not.
$60 cigars and up all the time.
Yeah.
We're down there. It's like, what's the best bang for our buck can we get on?
I mean, if I could smoke it every day, I would.
I mean, if we could, I mean,
If I was a millionaire, I mean, here's the thing about that. If we were all became millionaires tomorrow, yeah, most of our cigar collections would probably be high-end stuff all the time. But we came from humble beginnings when it came to cigars and libations, so to speak. Especially with the cigar realm, you're still you could have $20 million in your account and go, I want to try that $10 stick. As opposed to somebody who may have come straight from money and be like, I would never smoke a $10 stick.
But I'll tell you, like I said, you'll get some like those, like from that $10 to $15 range. That's like smokes well above that price point, though. So
Yeah.
it's always great to go out there and experiment on these $10 to $12 range stuff because you'll be surprised real fast about some of these.
Oh, yeah,
If
you'd be
you do a
shocked.
comparison to another cigar, you're like, yeah, this is
It's like the cigar we
same
had
caliber or
last
better.
video. Same principle. It was close to $10 stick, and then it tasted like a $20 stick,
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah, there's always that diminishing return you're going to have with anything with whiskey and cigars.
Yeah,
So
because once you're out, you're out.
Well, my father's pretty well known for its Nicaraguan. Pretty well known. And one thing I'll say is you look at the last one, the ERH that we smoked, and then this one. This, in my opinion, which I may change my opinion by the end of it, but this is the Maduro version of the last one we just smoked.
okay.
But we'll find out. I'm getting kind of a
Interesting.
dry ash off of it in the beginning.
So just for the listeners here, the last one we had was the
ERH. Yeah.
ERH,
Don
and that
Pepin.
was a Sumatra
Nicaraguan Puro.
Puro.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pure, yes. I kind of agree with you. It's kind of like a dry ashiness.
Yeah.
Excuse my words. Ashiness on the very very beginning of the first couple draws. You definitely have that dryness effect. But I feel like the deeper you go into the cigar, I think we're going to find there's a little bit more sweetness in it. And
Yeah, that's what you get with broadleaf. That's what you get with Maduro is the complexity of flavor. And you guys know I love Habano. Love it to death.
Oh, I do.
And when you get into the Nicaraguan flavors, it turns Maduro into a more flavorful experience. That's the one reason, and we're biased, I'll 100% tell you that. The reason I love my Father brand is it doesn't taste too manufactured, doesn't taste cheap. It tastes like a cigar. It feels like I'd be walking in 1860 to go get a cigar at a general store, and this would be the cigar I'd get. That's what they got imported from Mexico
it
or
tastes
wherever.
like that local Italian restaurant that's in a hole in the wall. The space is no bigger than 200 square feet, but they make the best Parmesan, chicken Alfredo, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
It is the best you ever had in your life. And you're like, why is this place isn't blowing up? It's because they just want to keep it that small because they want to keep the craft the way they like it.
Yeah.
And the quality is there.
Well said.
That's what I get with that. It's like level of care.
So this has been phenomenal. The Jack Daniels rye. Which proof was this again?
That would have been the lower proof. That one over there, 126.
Yes. 126. It's a 126.4 to be exact. Yes. 63.20% alcohol by volume.
These guys got me into ryes, and I have never gone back. It's been wonderful.
It's my personal opinion that if you start out your drinking of whiskeys in the bourbon world, you'll slowly transition into a rye drinker over time.
I used to hate it. I used to think that was a nasty flavor. Now it is the most complex, beautiful
Because
thing.
a lot of people hate the pepperiness and the spiciness of it. They like the sweet, the caramels, all that
Yeah.
good stuff. But once you drink so much bourbon, after a while, it just becomes all the same thing. It
I have
gets
a
bland
whole
out.
theory on it, basically.
And then you want to adjust your palate to something else. So you have a rye. There might be a burr rye, like a half bourbon, half rye type thing.
Yeah.
It's like a little gateway drug, if you will, into the rye world. And then that slowly transitions to doing full rye, 100% ryes. And then I think over time, it resets yourself.
You remember what my recommendation for getting into ryes was?
What was that?
It wasn't Woodford, but I know one you loved with Woodford, but it's another
Yeah,
one.
well. It was the Basil Hayden.
Basil Hayden. that's
Basil
right.
Hayden.
Okay,
Yeah. Because it's like a soft rye.
I would tell you my recommendation would be the Woodford rye, and the reason why is that it is a barely legal rye. I think it's like 51% rye. So it just comes off so sweet. You get the complexity from all that rye that's in there, but of course the sweetness from the corn. I think a lot of times what happens with a lot of people who decide they don't like rye whiskey is that they've had a really cheap pour of rye whiskey.
Yes.
And it is going to be anything that on bottom shelf. You can find some gems in the bottom shelf with anything you look for, but if you're looking for rye, I mean, you really have to. Rye takes a lot of time and effort to help mellow out some of the harshness.
Yes.
And so the more time.
This ain't no monkey shoulder.
Right.
Hey, monkey shoulder's pretty good.
But like you're saying is they might have to do a little bit extra things to soften the blow of the rye, because rye is very just smacking your face. It's hard. It's there. Like my gateway rye was Angel's Envy rye,
Oh,
and what they do is that they put in a second barrel that was an old rum barrel, so it brings some of those sweetness from that rum and infuses into that rye to where it's like, man, it's a sweet rye, but at the end of the day, it's still rye.
yeah.
It's just finished in a different barrel, and I think those are easy ones to try if you're wanting to get into rye. Before you get into something,
I was doing a little dabbling too with just research in general with just whiskey, and I came across this company basically. They're a sourcing company, so they ended up trying to make, of course, all this whiskey. And they, at one point in time, they got this imported rye from somewhere else they're not normally get it from, and it wasn't exactly what they would usually use, the right type of rye, and it just came out just so much more different, and it added so many different negative complexities that they did not like at all. And so, with quality, with expensive, you have to sit there and. These companies could use, an all rye whiskey, but it's not like the perfect, grain that they're looking for. That has all the subtle sweetnesses to it too, as well.
right? Because we've had some that are 100% rye, and it just didn't taste like you're drinking a spice bomb. It's oddly sweet when you're drinking this rye. And you're like, how do you do this when it's 100% rye?
It's like a hero tobacco.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
It goes down the line, and then some reason it twists back up, but it's still dark.
It's like
Rye goes
how do you
100%
like
rye
this?
goes and twists into this weird version of rye.
Yeah, I would have
Super Saiyan rye.
Super Saiyan rye.
Damn.
Oh, I love it.
Ah, rye. Sorry.
He's over 3,000.
9,000, 3,000. It doesn't matter.
Tomato, tomato.
So,
Nerd.
subject of the matter is the Jack Daniels Rickhouse collapse. Okay.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't know about that?
I mean, I heard about it.
You heard about it?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
no, I heard about it. It was.
Slightly
It was.
nice.
When the news hit, you imagine like a whole, a whole entire warehouse collapsed. Everything is damaged or destroyed. Most of it being destroyed.
Right.
It really wasn't as bad as they were trying to make it out to be. They had a partial collapse, and so Jack Daniels has about 90 different rick houses.
Yeah.
And then also, just for our viewers and our listeners, a rick house is simply just where they store all these barrels. And so Jack Daniels, their rick houses hold somewhere between 19,000 barrels of whiskey to 20,000 barrels of whiskey.
How many stories is that usually?
Somewhere typically like 7 or 8 typically. Sometimes they're taller, just depending on like when they built it, what they wanted, and what the capacity they were looking for.
Big square buildings. Usually all of them have windows in them to let in air back and forth. Am I right?
So
Some are climate controlled? I wouldn't think so.
Some are climate controlled.
Typically not.
Typically not. But I say more the modern take on using of the modern rick houses. They are more climate controlled, so they can be more precise on when they get their whiskey out, what they want it to be. It's just more of a higher level to fine tune your whiskey. That most
You're
of
going to
us
find a
do.
lot of those in demographics of where that the weather isn't conducive to what they're looking for. So if you have this perfect, let's just say, we talked about Detling in our last episode. He loves that impact of hot, humid Alabama weather. And so, I probably tell you, and none of his stuff is going to be climate controlled. But if you were farther up north where it got super, super cold, you would probably want to try to keep some of those, more climate controlled.
Yeah. You even got big brands like Old Forester that has a massive indoor climate controlled rick house in a way in their distillery in Louisville, Kentucky, where you can actually go visit and see. It's a beautiful place. Highly recommend. But it's multiple levels of nothing but barrels that have been sitting there for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So basically, a lot of times too, cool little like nerdy facts here with the whiskey stuff is that when they usually try to get those climate controlled places, it's basically to try to actually when they get to a whiskey they really like, but they want to keep pushing the age statement on it.
Yeah.
They'll probably put it in these facilities that have these climate controlled, so they don't have too much fluctuation more now with the whiskey itself because they don't want to add more that wood tannins into the whiskey, and so you're gonna. So basically, when it gets hot, the whiskey gets absorbed into that barrel, and then when it gets cold again, it shrinks back into it. So you're basically, it's basically like a sponge. You're squeezing in that all that wood, and then squeezing right back out into the barrel.
Gotcha.
So once you get to a certain point, sometimes they'll throw it into these climate controls. The best one is the cellar age from Maker's
I was
Mark.
thinking the same thing.
Basically, what they'll do is they'll age their stuff, and then they'll bring it into that their cellar, which is basically in a mountain.
Yes.
The
it's
coolest
gorgeous.
experience, but they'll age it in there, and so
If it was cold in there, it was great.
The
Yeah.
wood impact isn't as dramatic, but you're adding this, longevity, complexity to these whiskeys. So it's just really kind of, with rick houses themselves. I mean,
Yeah, we can do a whole episode about rick houses.
we really could. We really could. But to keep on going with the Jack Daniels collapse or the partial collapse, about 15% of it was damaged in that collapse. So really, honestly, not too much in the grand scheme of things. But it was still 3,000 around like 2,800, somewhere around there. Barrels that was damaged.
Yeah.
So still, like in general, that's a giant chunk. It's a good penny for Jack Daniels.
We're also still thinking about Jack Daniels at the end of the day.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
It's the most well-known whiskey brand in the world, honestly.
I've
Yes.
never heard of it.
No.
But yeah, so if you imagine, 20,000 times 90, that's a lot of whiskey out there.
There's a lot of whiskey. I'm not surprised he didn't have like a old apocalyptic movie where the zombies just storming the whole thing just to go see if they can grab a barrel that might have broken out of the rick house. Some people try to get on the property,
That's funny.
take them out.
And when we come back, we will kind of discuss the impact or lack thereof of a rickhouse collapse and potential theories on why it happened.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, so the rickhouse collapsed as Jack Daniels.
yes.
How much you said? 30%?
No, 15.
15.
About 2,800 barrels.
Let me get some of the information correct. Was this stuff on the? I'm guessing from the top down, obviously.
You would imagine it was a portion of it, so I would imagine probably a corner or a middle section probably collapsed. Somewhere where something, some kind of beam got, was,
Usually what it is one. It's usually these older rick houses they have on the property.
So by the way, too, that rick house was built in 1960. So
Yeah.
you're talking about
It's
65,
older,
65 years old.
and they're all it is bare timbers and wood,
Right.
And it's getting soaked in by maybe they're pulling plugs out of whiskey barrels that might get soaked in a little bit of whiskey here and there.
Yeah.
The weather, termites can get into eventually sometimes.
But
depending
what
if they have
caused them
take care
not
of
to
it.
pay attention to this?
They
this kind of
can,
stuff?
but these rick houses are massive.
Yeah.
Massive. And you're only talking about if one got eaten with termites in a small section you just didn't see, just notice, and just ate away that little bit of a corner, that could have just knocked down a couple shelves, and those couple shelves knocked over
Yeah.
a couple more shelves.
You know what's funny is I bet right now, like all the distilleries are going, let's go inspect our rick houses right now.
Especially
Every
Jack
single one of them.
Daniels, Yeah.
Like
Yeah, they do
every
that.
single distillery is going through
and
inspecting.
they're supposed to, but at the end of the day, we're humans, so humans make errors. So
Yeah.
you see a guy that might be working 12-hour shifts for the past week, and he's like, it's the same thing as every day. I'm just not gonna even look at it. Just walks through and even check every little bolts and everything. Yeah.
I'm curious if it was a human error somewhere.
It could
If
have
that would have been like,
It could
say
have been.
someone was trying, I don't know if
They would have had a
places-
full report on it for sure.
So I'm curious if like they had like a
What's the police report? You know, like for fire, it's arson. What's whiskey collapse in a rick house? What's that called? Rarson?
Boozing.
Boozing?
Well, I mean, it could be a human error, and they just do an internal investigation and try to see who was there. Was the last person that inspected the rick house, you know? But at the end of the day, it could just been a natural thing that just happened out of nowhere.
I've heard they've had to hire multiple investigators because every time they get one in to investigate, he has to sample the product so much that he can't finish his investigation.
Why would you do that, Josh? You had a good job.
hey, I would take the job 10 times over. What was the other question that you had for us? It was the speculations, wasn't it?
Right, like what could have caused something like that? What's the outcome, the effects of this? Because when you first told me about this subject and we were discussing it before the show, I thought you were like, "Oh, it's only 15%. It's Jack Daniels, they're humongous." My first thought was, what if I was a smaller distiller and that happened to me? Like that, you might put one of them out of business.
Yeah,
It's
because
yeah.
a lot of those small ones have like maybe 2 rick houses at the most, and they're nowhere near the size as some of the bigger distilleries that have hundreds of rick houses.
Check your ricks.
Check your ricks.
Investigate your ricks.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they can probably shoulder that burden of having that small collapse of that rick house. But you say someone like Deadling that we discussed last video,
Yeah.
and if he had his rick house that he built himself happened to collapse and destroyed all those barrels,
Yeah.
it could significantly hurt him to where he could go out of business.
Do
Possibly.
you know how much it probably cost them?
How much?
So if you speculate somewhere between 25 to 30 million dollars worth of whiskey.
Brr.
If you're looking at about a yield about 200, so basically the high yield of whiskey in a barrel is about 200
Yes.
plus. So if you just hit 200 times say $50, that's probably averaging both the probably just normal number 7 with any of the other products. So say $50 on average for per bottle that they're going to sell it as. By the way,
Yeah.
times that by that 3,000, you're looking at somewhere between 25 to 30 million dollars. So yes, of course, small business that would be crazy.
Devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Jack Daniels, 30 million is a lot.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
But they can shoulder that hit pretty easily compared to someone very, very
And
small.
if they get upset about it, they can just drink their own whiskey and forget about it.
No, they can release some things they've had on the back shelf for a very long time, slap a fancy label on it, and slap a fancy bottle and say this is a limited release, and they made that money back real quick.
You know what it made me think about when we first started discussing this subject in the episodes we wanted to do was Arturo Fuentes issue they had, I think, about 2 or 3 years ago, where they had a hailstorm down there
Yeah, that's crazy.
and destroyed 30% of their crop, which is, it's outside. That tobacco getting destroyed by hail pellets, that's a big deal. And all I thought was, you better buy your Arturo Fuentes now, because that stuff's about to jump up in price.
That, or they can go ahead and market the name the Holy Cigar.
Right. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
But with that, speculations of like what they could do, I'm curious because there has been these releases, or special releases of these whiskeys of like these burned down rick houses that the surviving barrels. Now it was a partial collapse, so it wasn't like a full collapse.
But they're still going to bite into that.
So I mean,
promise you that.
would they potentially ever release a whiskey? This was the and also are they gonna fix it, or are they gonna tear it down and make a new one? They tear it down and make a new one. I think they definitely should.
Is it
that's
salvageable? That's the thing.
I think
Yeah.
it probably is salvageable.
I would
That's the thing about
15%.
wood is, even though one section collapses, doesn't mean the other side is anywhere near collapsing. And it's easier just to repair a wooden structure, especially if it's an older building that was just a wooden brick house. Now, some days, some places have like wood mixed with a little bit of metal for like other reasons, a little bit more structurally sound, but most of them are still wood. At the end of the day, to tear all the way down, it means they'd have to move every barrel out of that rick house, store it somewhere in the meantime where they're building this rick house. It's going to take months. So those barrels are going to be stuck either in a warehouse, and that can ruin the product that they're trying to make with those barrels.
Oh, they
That's a
would.
good
They would
point.
definitely just probably move it to it because they always have some space available. So they probably would move. It'd take a lot of manpower.
a lot
I'm
of
with you.
manpower.
They could, but I don't think they
If,
would.
if it's just a corner that collapsed, I think they'll just repair that and keep the barrels in there while they're doing the work. If it's something where it's not usable anymore as a rick house,
Man.
they probably just need to build a new rick house. When
Like-
that new one's built, move all those barrels over there and then redo that
It
one.
basically kind of comes down to what was the cause, and if it was, and if it could happen again. That's really what it comes down to when they're doing their.
It was Javier. It was his fault.
It was Javi.
He walked in.
Javier for?
He was in there and he was messing with a bolt, and he just took that one bolt out.
I do know a Javi in Tennessee, close to that area, so it could have been him.
Hey, see, we're calling you out.
Damn you, Javi.
Yeah, Javi.
So
Javi would do it too.
the marketing strategy behind this, you mentioned something to me earlier that I thought was brilliant, and I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
That's what I was just saying. It was like basically they would, like I said, with some of these brands, and I want to say it was Buffalo Trace, I think, but it was a company though that they had a burned down warehouse, and then they marketed it as
It was Jim Beam.
It was Jim Beam. So whatever it burnt down, and then they had some barrels that survived that whole thing, and they went ahead and marketed those barrels as the surviving barrels.
Yeah. It's
So-
so for a lot of
I love
So-
that idea, and I love the idea of like they're going to put inside of their like gift shop at their distillery, like these are some of the collapsed staves from this and that, and they carve names into it. Like there's
That
so
would be
many
really-
things they can do.
Right.
To recoup that $30 million.
Yeah.
All right. So we're all pretty much past that first third of that cigar.
Mm-hmm.
What was everybody's first interpretation and then what they're finding in this cigar?
I'm getting heavy leather, like very heavy leather. Like I'm trying to pick out the cocoa and any organic flavors in it, and mostly what I'm getting is like you grab a piece of leather, you smell it, and I'm getting that all the way through. Like that's what I'm getting.
New
so
wallet
far.
over there.
It is a new wallet.
Getting
Yes.
getting new wallet smell.
Beautiful wallet.
Getting new
Beautiful
blue,
wallet. Yes.
new wallet smell. What do you-
I totally agree with you though. Like I was trying to pick out something as different from that as well, and I'm getting. And I'm glad it wasn't the only one because I was like, I'm really only getting this leathery, maybe a little bit dusty note to it
Yeah.
when I'm pulling it. I've been looking at like potentially like trying to see because usually you'll get a little cocoa, you'll get a little bit of chocolate, potentially the Maduro. I don't know about a broadleaf, but I'm not getting those notes right now.
I'm not either.
Okay.
Not either.
Yeah, you're right. It's more leather right now and more of a dusty leaf type of taste out of it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that the farther we go in past the middle of it and the heart of the cigar goes towards that last
gonna
third,
compound.
I think it's going to compound. Either you're going to get a little bit more of that spiciness mixed with the leather, or you're going to get a little bit of a sweet hit towards the end.
Yeah.
I'll be excited for either or. I think it's been a fine cigar so far. It's been pretty. I'd say probably average, middle of the road cigar.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep, I'd agree.
nothing that's going to be blowing your mother away. I should say.
Good Lord.
You're gonna be blowing your lady away. You mean?
Either or. It depends. We are in Alabama, so
Oh
Well,
my
I only say
God.
the lady because the La Duena means the lady in Spanish.
Yes.
So
WTF, it's going to turn into an OnlyFans page at this
after a
point.
while, yeah.
oh, speaking of that, are we gonna plunge the tip?
We are definitely, I want to try this with here just at the middle, just so we can kind of see if we can get something else out of it, you know?
Plunge that
Yeah.
tip.
Yeah.
Plunge the tip. Oh, yeah?
I was just curious. You said OnlyFans. So I was like, I'm gonna throw it out there. It's like, I mean, it's
That's not bad at all.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Definitely better than last week's episode with the plunge. Like that didn't really generate much for me.
Well, I think the problem of that is like you take something that's very overly sweet with a darker cigar that we had last week. It's either going to help or hurt, and I think in that aspect it hurt.
Yeah.
I find that with cigars and plunging the tip, the no of plunging the tip, is you typically want to pair something with it that would only enhance the cigar. So you're going to try to find similar flavors in that spirit of your choice that will compound those flavors you already get picking up inside the whiskey.
Yeah.
And since we're using a rye that has a bunch of spices and dark notes, you can find that you're trying to get some more of that in the cigar.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think is what I would mess around with, even with pairing, is that from my experiences so far with really trying to sit down and actually pair stuff instead of just drinking what I want to drink and smoke what I want to smoke, is add something that has more complexity or different complexities. Not almost the same notes, almost different complexities. So when you're adding them together, it's like layering a cake. I mean, you're just adding more and more flavors to the whole recipe.
You're only enhancing the product.
I'm starting to notice a little more spice in this. Like as we said that, it's starting. The hint of it is picking up
And
right now.
I think plunging helped that because it helped to like, hey, there's something in here
Yeah.
that you might start to see now, and I think that just enhanced it.
Wolverine agrees.
Ooh, I love Wolverine.
Wolverine agrees.
Yeah. He's a baby back bitch.
Baby back. So, we've got stuff on this. We've been enjoying My Father.
Yes.
It's been great.
Mm-hmm.
We've been enjoying multiple different distilleries and things of that nature. Again, if you got recommendations, let us know.
Yeah, we're always open,
Yeah.
and like we said in the past, we have a wide variety of stuff on our shelves. All three of us combined, that whatever you recommend, more than likely we'll have.
New Rift.
Ooh.
I'd love to see if we can find a cigar that pairs with that because that's such a good.
I love New Rift because all their products is bottle and bond, and a lot of their ryes are top tier for me.
And their bottles are
And
like art.
the bottles are beautiful,
art quality.
absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I like the rep for it when we were at the.
Was it Kentucky Bourbon Festival?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was pretty cool, man. He was chill as hell.
they're awesome guys. Like if you ever go to a whiskey festival and they happen to have a New Rift booth there, go in there and chat with them. I think all the people that have working for them are super nice, super friendly, ready to teach you about their product and not like pressing you to get anything. They just love what they made. They're more of like a small craft distillery in a bigger spot. They're kind of like the middle ground.
Yeah.
As far
Yeah, they're
as
growing for sure.
they're growing. They're
Oh,
up on
yeah.
this trajectory. So they're not really that small company, but they're not that Jack Daniels, Buffalo Trace level.
Yeah.
Just
A collapse of their rickhouse would make an effect on that.
Oh, 100%.
Of 3,000 barrels, yes, for
100%.
sure. But I think it shows, I know we're pulling away from Jack Daniels, but New Rift, though, it, kind of deserves a little bit of spotlight, though, but we're talking about it.
Yes.
Is that, it's one of those, distilleries that, kind of popped up during the whole COVID period. And then most of those companies nowadays, where you're starting to see this somewhat slow down in production and just desire of all these crazy bottles. So, to see the test of time, basically whiskey distilleries that are good, just like, and not just good, just great.
Great.
Right. Surprisingly great.
And then you're going to see them keep going and getting better and better, and then they are going to be there. They're going to be there in another 5, 10 plus years.
And I think that has a lot to do with, obviously, we're in the technological age, and information is people getting started making it aren't having to like figure it out. They can literally go online, figure it out, and go, I'm going to try this out. And then it expands from whatever point they have the money to keep going
I
with it.
think to a degree, yeah. But you have to have, in my opinion, you have to find that master blender. You have to find that right person that knows the craft and knows the base of what they're trying to build and have a trajectory of where they want to go. And I think right now we're very lucky to have the distilleries we have after COVID, the ones that survived COVID, because there's a lot of distilleries that during COVID they just went bankrupt. They went out of business. They couldn't sustain it through that.
They're continuing.
But the ones
to do
that
so.
got through it are the ones you got to watch, because they're the ones that did it right. They had a product that's worth sticking around even through COVID when everybody was locked up inside their houses. And New Riff is one of them, and even Jack Daniels have reinvented themselves, I think, in the recent
Yeah.
history, because most of my knowledge of Jack Daniels growing up was just old number 7, that black label bottle
Yeah.
that you mix with Coke. And that was it. I didn't know they had or hadn't fancier bottles, as you can say.
So here's an interesting question to go along with it. The advent of COVID and some of the, like you guys were saying, some of the distilleries not being able to make it through. There's two ways to look at that. Do you feel bad, like, man, there's some really good ones that we'll never get to try because they closed? Or now we have the elite at the cusp?
My opinion is that COVID was the best thing for the whiskey industry, because the reason why that's going to be the case is all of these craft distillers that wanted an opportunity was given the opportunity now, because that the crazy high demand for whiskey, caused basically an influx of people just buying craft distillery on top of just that, some of the higher end stuff that you couldn't find, the allocated products.
Right.
So if basically, I think it was a benefit to the industry, because it gave everybody the opportunity to showcase what they were capable of doing.
Yeah.
And the ones that are going to make it are going to be the ones that did it right, had the right quality, had the right master distiller and master blender. And like you said, I think the key thing is the master blender, because there's only so much you can do while the product is maturing. You got to make good whiskey, but if you can't blend it, it's going to be
Any jabroni can throw stuff in a mash into a mash and throw it
any
to steel.
jabroni.
Most can throw in there. The real key is once that spirit is made, then it goes in the hands of that master blender, and it's up to them to make this product.
So would you say they were like a ninja blender?
Wow. No, I wouldn't say a ninja blender. I wouldn't want to, chew it all.
Never gonna kill you, huh?
I think though the COVID was a great thing for that industry.
100%. I think you can't look too far in the past. If they didn't make it, there's a reason they didn't make it, and that's just my personal opinion.
Pressure.
I feel like
Yeah.
if your product was good enough, it would have sustained through it. At the end of the day, now some of that can be you just were really, really small and you just didn't have the money to push your product.
Yeah, that's good. That's my next point.
In my personal opinion is, if I never had to begin with, I'm not going to miss it because I never had it.
And the great thing is now if you didn't make it, you have another opportunity
Yeah.
to show yourself, because you've seen some of the ones that collapsed, that didn't work out through COVID. So now you know kind of what not to do. You have even more knowledge of what not to do, and you can go even harder into your passion if that's what you're about.
And I think a lot of them too is like they still want to be in the whiskey industry, so they might not have their own distillery right now, but they're going to work for these bigger distilleries and being blenders and distillery hands and stuff like that. Eventually, they might come back out with their own distillery once the market gets better for them to be able to do so. And then
the only handcuff that I would say that if I had to give any other craft distillery some grace was that there was a big shortage of barrels back during COVID. So if you were a craft distiller, you didn't have the buying power to buy some of the best barrels, and wood has a huge impact on your product. So if you don't have the best cooperages to work with and be able to buy those barrels, there's only so much you can make. And if you can't make whiskey, then you're not making money. So
So you don't want to make whiskey in those big blue water containers?
You can't.
no, you make a mash in that.
You can make moonshine out of it.
Make mash of that.
I made whiskey in this big old blue barrel. It should be good. I don't think so, buddy.
All whiskey starts out as moonshine, honestly, too. So.
Yep. Or you can call it white dog.
White dog, it's moonshine.
Yeah, whatever it is, it is.
At the end of the day, it's moonshine. The only reason it's called moonshine because it's illegal. It's only because of who's making it.
So you saw Old Smoky makes illegal stuff?
They make illegal stuff. I really enjoyed that one time we went to Tennessee, Old Smoky.
Garthos too.
Yeah, and they did that little taste test, and it was a pretty
comment.
cool little event. I bought a bottle of that. I think it was the coffee flavored one, like the coffee.
Yeah,
My
coffee infused one.
My favorite was the apple pie. I mean,
it was fantastic.
You talking about a cocktail mixer there? That's what if I'm gonna have some. That's you put that a little bit over that.
Yeah, they gotten some new ones here of late that have been really, really good. They've gone all over the place with like some peach moonshine, some cherry.
Oh, of course.
All that. Moonshine has its place for sure, and I think we could eventually do an episode about moonshine try to dive into that a little bit.
Hey, yeah, I mean, I definitely would love to. I got, well, I can't say that.
Even though I've had some bad experiences with moonshines in my life, certain people know about that sitting at this table. But overall, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good product. Of course, I mean, it is another libation that we do partake in here and there. It's not our favorite, but
Clean your bumper and then drink some. Yeah.
That's right. But it doesn't hurt to make a good cocktail out of it for sure.
100%.
But man, this whiskey is kicking butt, and so is the cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still getting, it's still kind of one note for me as far as the cigar is concerned. I will say, not to be too negative, but I'm a little disappointed in how one note it is, and I'm trying to find the positive of it being one note.
Like you said, it's a puro, from what right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So being a puro, it's gonna be a lot of times one note. When the Maduro factor helps add more flavor to it.
Yeah.
But I just
I agree and disagree, because Nicaraguan puros that are not Maduro, I enjoy those. Like Christoph makes one like that I enjoy. And I enjoy those kind of things, but having this little bit of Maduro on it, it's a little like you're trying to get the flavor out of them, trying to pull the flavor out of them. Mm-hmm. But that's just me.
Right.
Yeah. So far out of our
I wouldn't kick it out of bed.
So out of our My Father's cigar month so far, this is your least favorite?
I would say this is my least favorite.
Not a bad stick, just least favorite.
Just least favorite, yeah. Not a bad stick at all.
It's just not as complex as, if you're looking for a good solid smoke, like I said, I feel like for me, when I get these one-noted cigars that don't have a ton of complexity, I always call them my golfing cigars. Because, again, it's a solid, great smoke.
It's your basic B.
It's a great smoke. But when I'm golfing, I'm not looking for all these crazy nuts. I am looking for just a solid, great crafted, great smoke. And a great crafted cigar, so I don't have any issues while I'm smoking while I'm playing.
That made me think of a story. I remember, I think it was the last time I ever played golf with you. We were playing with a big group of people, right?
Yeah.
And you gave that one guy a cigar, and he lit and smoked this much of it, and he was ahead of us. And then we get to the green, and Josh goes, I hadn't lit a cigar yet. I'll just take that one. He left it by the hole.
Yeah, I think he forgot it. He left it, and I was like, it was barely even touched. Yeah. And I just real quick, I'm just gonna snip the end of that, and I'm gonna keep on smoking it.
Yeah.
Keep rocking and rolling. It's still a good cigar.
But speaking of that, I always recommend if you guys smoke and you're brothers of the leaf, always keep a extra cigar or two for people who are interested in the hobby or interested in being possibly a cigar enthusiast themselves.
Yeah, a cigar like this, I think, is a good gateway cigar to get someone into.
Yeah,
cigar, because it's not overly complex. They're not going to be blown away with all these weird notes you might pick up in a cigar. It's a fairly cheap cigar.
Yes.
Readily available in most places. So if you ever want to hold someone on your person for someone that's like, man, I love watching you sitting there smoking a cigar or golfing. I'd love to join in with you. You're not going to give them your $25 stick. You're going to give them something a little bit cheaper.
What do I call those?
You tell me. What do you call those?
I call those decoy cigars. So whenever I used to go golfing, I haven't gone in a really long time. It was typically $5 sticks or $6 sticks. It was Perdomo Frescos, which are not a bad stick. Honestly, for that price point, they are well above that. They are a $10 stick, and it doesn't cost that much.
So you weren't being mean people for being decoys.
No.
Yeah,
it's just
you want
like
to be nice.
You want to be nice because you don't want to give them like a quorum. No offense, but you don't want to give them
shade.
Like he just said. I've got a $20 stick here, or a $15 Aroa Colorado 20th year, one of my favorites. I'm not giving you that. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
That was meant for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give that to somebody like him. Hey, man, I forgot my cigar. Bam.
Now I have mistakenly gave someone one of my good cigars, and it was heartbreaking. Because once you get that cigar, it's hard to take it back.
It just depends if they enjoyed it enough. Like I said,
you hope they
if it was that guy in front of me who, I gave him something like that, here's you a Padron.
Oh, and they just said, I don't want this, and they just chunk it like it's a piece of trash. You're like, stab right in the heart. It's like, man, why are you wasting such a good cigar?
Exactly.
The disrespect.
But that's the whole point about the MSRPs that we give for the cigars that we smoked is you can find a lot of really good sticks in the $10 range. I mean, Once you jump up to the 15, it feels like a different ballpark, but sometimes not. But $10, if you can find a good $10 stick, which has been a majority of the ones we've smoked, you've hit gold on that.
Oh yeah.
Struck gold?
Yes.
Yeah, struck gold.
Mm.
You all right there?
Tough. No, I was just drinking it more, had a mouthful,
Well,
and try to pull at the same time. It was not a great idea.
as we wrap this up, we need to pour the second bottle. That's all right with you?
Do you want to? I mean,
Yeah, we got to do a little taste test on it.
okay. A little taste test. I will let you pour yours.
What you want.
So basically, right now for our listeners, we had 2 bottles. Like, so we're now pouring the higher proof one, and I think without any.
That was too much.
I'll split that with
Thank you.
My buddy. But this right here was out of the 2 barrels in the past. You never know how these are going to open up, but it was our least favorite, but not bad. It was just that first one I think is a magical, and it's also fun because I've also have I think 2 or 3 of these same variety but different barrels. And they've all been a little bit different. So that's always really fun about in the whiskey industry, getting single barrels of the same product, because they're all not the same. Because every barrel sits somewhere different on the rickhouse. It's going to be possibly in a whole different rickhouse in general.
And they rotate those in rickhouses too. They don't just keep them in the same spot the entire time.
Some do, some don't.
Some do, some don't.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see what you think. Do you think Jack Daniels rotates theirs or not rotates theirs?
I think they do not rotate.
Art?
That's good. I gotta say, I'm sorry to stop your question, but I'm enjoying the first sip of that better than that one. Anyway,
I think I am too.
I think what it comes down to is, the first thing I thought of with that question is, they make so much, they're so big, they're not going to rotate their stuff because they don't care. They know they're going to sell it. That's not to say it's not good, because it is good. They make some really good stuff, but they've gotten so big that they don't care. They're like, nope, this is what we're getting out of that. Done. That's how money's made. It's fast.
Yes. So Jack Daniels does not rotate their stuff.
Hey!
Yeah,
That's right.
Good, correct answers to both of you guys. You guys
You gotta meet me halfway.
It's 90-10. You don't know the
That's the
rules.
most terrible high five.
That was bad.
But the reason why a lot of distilleries do and don't, some like to rotate theirs just from getting the same complexity or the same product throughout. So but what Jack Daniels does is that, and some of the distilleries do the same thing, is they leave their top rack stuff, particularly for single barrels, and their lower rack stuff for their normal Jack 7, number 7.
So here's an interesting thought. The fact that they don't rotate them, meaning they didn't see any issue with their rickhouse because they don't look that close, because they don't rotate them, as opposed to a company that does rotate. Maybe they'll be like, hey, that's coming off the line a little bit differently when it's rolling off the thing.
It could be. I mean, I would say though is like that's an iffy and what a master blender or anybody who's going to go out there and testing out those barrels, they're looking for when they're ripe. So they're going to the top rack. They're seeing when, hey, that's too much oak.
Yeah.
We need to pull that.
Right.
Or that's perfect. That's the right amount of oak that I want out of this line that I'm thinking about this whiskey to be, and they'll pull it. So they'll be up there all the time.
It's all about quality control.
Yeah.
And if you're keeping the same barrels that you want for, say, the single barrel barrel strength rye, you're gonna keep them on the same level, typically on the same rows if you can, because across the board they're all going to be consistently the same.
Gotcha.
As close as they can be without. And now you're going to have differentiations as far as proof wise, because all barrels are different. At the end of the day, you're going to get more contraction,
Right.
all that. It's always going to be different. But
And Jack
it's the
Daniels
more
is in
baseline.
Kentucky, right?
No, they're in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
It is a
that's right.
Tennessee whiskey.
What city?
It is in.
Quiz.
Oh, no.
I love all these quiz and questions. It is in Lynchburg.
Lynchburg.
Oh.
For some reason, my brain went to L, but I went to Lexington. I was like, Lexington's in Kentucky, you idiot.
So it's actually in Lynchburg, Tennessee. That's why it's called. It's actually they notated as Tennessee whiskey. Now this is a huge debate, and this is actually the question. This is the comment question of the day: is Jack Daniels Tennessee whiskey? Is it bourbon or not bourbon? And you let me know in the comments. Is it bourbon? Or
It is not, but
technically it is.
it is up for debate.
Ooh, see,
And
I didn't even know we had this kind of division on the.
There is no division
studio
for me
here.
because in my mind, it is 100% bourbon.
So is it? Or you're saying it is bourbon?
I said, technically speaking, it is not, but as far as how it's made and everything, it is a bourbon. It is 100% a bourbon.
Now, I don't know if you know this, Art. Do you know why the controversy, arises from Tennessee whiskey?
No, I don't.
So the whole reason behind Tennessee whiskey is that it is charcoal filtered. So basically, after they make their whiskey, they pour it through these. Now they do a crazy job of how they go and make the charcoals to filter through it.
Right.
But they'll filter the whiskey through that to help kind of like strip the properties,
tannins
the
off
harsh
of it.
tannins. So if you guys have, it's actually been a recent thing right now too with these oak cups that have charred insides. Have you guys seen those recently?
Like whiskey cups?
Whiskey?
Yeah.
They're like the wooden grills that have a charred inside, right?
I've always wanted. I saw some of those recently. And I was like, man, I'd love to have
They're
one
very
of those.
cool.
And so I have two. So we actually be a cool episode to do one day. But that's the same premise.
You don't get one.
It's the same premise. Is that they'll basically, it's when you're pouring your whiskey in there, it kind of takes some of the tannins out when you're drinking your whiskey.
Have you noticed that drinking out of one of those?
I won't lie to you. I just got it just recently, so
Okay.
I haven't had the experience yet.
Okay, good. Well, I think we know what. Once we get through the My Father series,
Which we're close to the end, if not the end.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
you'll have to
I've
find
heard
out.
that's close, but not the end.
Yeah. So tune in next time, definitely for something maybe ordinary or special. I don't know. You'll just have to tune in to find out. I don't know.
We don't know.
You guys enjoying the cigar so far?
Yes, like I said, I think it's a great cigar. I think I'm pretty. I mean, I for the value, what it is, $10. It's right there at it for me. Being a puro, it's getting exactly what I think. My palate never goes towards a Maduro in the first place. So for me, in my opinion of this cigar, it's about what I would expect. Maybe it's slightly below what I expected because I was hoping for a little more complexity. But for the most part, I think it's a good cigar, not a great cigar.
I would happen to agree with you.
Yeah.
I
Worth a
think-
try.
Yes, it's worth a shot, worth a try. And I am a big My Father fanboy for sure. But if I'm being completely honest, would I buy this stick for myself again? The answer would be no.
I was thinking the same thing. Now, don't let that distract you from trying it.
no.
And
Still
as
try
the
it
general
out.
rule, buy two,
Buy two.
so you can try them out and you go
Because,
back to back.
every
Because you may
stick's the
find it.
same.
You may like it.
You may enjoy it. Might be your favorite cigar.
It's
to
also
go to.
like too. It's like it's whiskey and cigars are basically the same thing when you're talking about your mouth palate being where it is.
Yeah.
So I know there's plenty of actual professional like whiskey tasters. Their palate in the morning.
Yeah, they're called drunkers.
Well, they're. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna tell you otherwise, but they'll do testings in the morning, and then they'll do the same testings in the evening because their palate, even from morning to evening, has changed.
Yeah, because it changes with what you
Interesting.
eat and what you do
Yeah.
during the day. And
So that would be a good test for this. Like, I'd like to smoke this again.
Smoke
Like,
it
I
in the
may
morning?
smoke it tomorrow.
smoke it in the morning with a cup of coffee.
Yeah. See if I get anything else different out of it. Yeah, that's
But
a
I'd
good
say
point.
out of the options of My Father, I think the one of the last ones we had, like the RH, I'd rather have that cigar over this one.
Oh, I
yeah,
agree.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Nine times 10, and they're around the same price point.
Yep.
So I think if you've got to spend a couple dollars more either way, I'd say do that over this one. But I still, like we've been saying, always try a cigar out, get two sticks, see for yourself, because it might be a cigar that you're like, dang, I don't know what that guy was on. I don't know what he was smoking, but
Yeah.
what I'm smoking is fucking
Yeah,
fantastic.
you may completely disagree with us.
Yes.
Like 100% disagree with us and go,
And
this
that's
is the best
completely
thing.
okay.
Yeah.
That's the joy of smoking cigars, that everybody has their own palate and their own taste.
There you go. Well,
Oh, I smoked like a crackhead. It was
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I farted
terrible.
down on you almost. Close.
Well-
We're close. We're close.
You have anything more to add about Rickhouses or anything? Anything that would be of note real quick?
Rickhouses are cool.
Rickhouses
Rickhouses are toxic
Oh,
masculinity.
here's a good question.
Why is it called Rickhouse and not
Why is it
Samantha
called
House?
Rickhouse? Why is the name Rickhouse? Because I remember we went the thing in Kentucky and they were kind of explaining how it may have changed the name based on something else, but I can't remember what it is now.
Yeah, you threw me.
can't remember
You threw
either.
me a curveball, and I struck and missed.
He
So
dumped
sorry.
out of
So
the way.
when we were going through the tours over in Kentucky, one of the guides told us about it. And as I'm kind of explaining this story, he'll probably look it up so we can get it. But it was something like, it sounds like Rickhouse, so they just started calling it Rickhouse.
I think it really is the how it was built was made out of all wood, and wind would hit that building and start to make a crick, and Rick, and started probably transitioned into Rickhouse, like an old rickety bridge.
Yeah.
You know, it always made that noise we call a rickety bridge. It's something that makes all these crickling, crackling when it's blown in the wind.
Yeah.
I think that's similar to what it is. I could be completely wrong, but that would be my best guess. Because
Yeah.
I can't remember for sure, but we have been told.
All right, so a rick comes from the meaning of stack or pile of. So that's the reason why it's
It's just a stack of wood.
It's a stack of wood and a stack of barrels.
Yeah.
So basically, where it comes from.
Okay. I think my idea was
Yeah.
better. I'll go with that. If I
The
was the
framework
steward.
or stacking of holding of the barrels.
It's interesting because you go like a cord of wood, and that fits in the same kind of vocabulary as rick and cord. Like it's all that kind of lumber vernacular. In a sense. Anyway,
There was, I think,
little bit of
I
nerd
think
now.
what you guys might be thinking about was the reason what they paint those rick houses.
You know, like Members Mart, they paint the outside of the Rick House because of basically the fungus
Yeah,
that gets all over the building.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
And so Members
You're
Mart
getting it.
paints their Rick Houses black. So you just don't see it because it's unsightly. If you see all that black mold all over your building, it doesn't look great. So they paint black.
So the historical reason behind that is back in the day. So when they were, of course, going through that prohibition period, is that people who were making their moonshine, that same mold that would grow on their rick houses nowadays was growing on those buildings that they were distilling the moonshine, and that was always a dead giveaway of, hey, those are moonshiners.
yeah, you can tell because there's the mold.
So and
Bam.
then that's why they painted the color that way.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be interesting to go on that.
I love that
further
history.
episodes.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw me a curveball again like that.
I know.
I
it's
know.
terrible.
Hey, that's what
Jabroni.
the internet's for. Anyways, we appreciate you guys
Circle back
being
around.
here. Again, we're drinking some Jack Daniels. We were talking about the Rickhouse collapse, and we were smoking the La Duena by my father. It was a great little stick. Good bourbon to go with it.
Rye.
Good rye to go with it. Some people have opinions about bourbon. And I got to say, I'm enjoying the second one better.
Oh yeah. And it's been a while since I've opened up that second bottle, so it could be better. This is the last time I had it, and of course, I will say this also: your palate will change over years.
That's true.
So you might not like this 2 years ago, but 2 years later you might enjoy the hell out of it.
Right.
Yeah, that's the great thing. So always, if you have an older thing sitting on the shelf that you thought it was crap, but you really don't want to get rid of it because you still spend a lot of money on it, go back to it every once in a while. You might have some
Yeah,
different opinions.
oxidation on a whiskey.
Helps.
They say a lot of people say that it doesn't exist. It
It does,
definitely,
100%.
it definitely exists. It definitely.
And look out for an episode. It's called Palate Evolution. You'll see that probably a little bit later. And you can see kind of what my thoughts were on that and how that process, as far as cigars are concerned, goes with that. And that'll go into more detail. But we appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Garth. This has been a great little episode. And remember, you can like, share, subscribe, all of the things down below. Appreciate you leaving a review on any place where you listen to podcasts, good or bad. I really don't care. Just leave something. Comment again, comment a third time. Help those algorithms just process anything.
Sure you like that video.
Yeah, share it around. I'd appreciate it. Other than that, you can join our community, and you can see the link below. It's in a link tree for our Discord. We run the Discord out of the Archifier Studios Discord, and you will find these two commenting heavily in the WTF section.
Yeah, we're
So-
always there. And the food section, because
Oh yeah, foodies
stay
unite.
away from food. Let's get good cheers in here.
Cheers.
Just toast it off.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We'll see you next time.